Bubba built it.
Hey guys, today we're going to talk about Ruckus Truk.
Ruckus Truk.
It was a build that kind of leapfrogged Trans Slammed. We were probably about the halfway point, wouldn't you say, on Trans Slammed, and then all of a sudden this opportunity came up. It's just like,
and it was just like, yeah. Well, the thing was also we were halfway through, maybe a little more than halfway through Trans Slam, but it was not going to be ready for Power Tour, and we found this. Well, if you're like us, we're like marketplace junkies.
Yeah, exactly. It used to be Craigslist.
Yeah, but this was marketplace. Yeah, we definitely were. I used to be, an Auto Trader junkie.
Yes.
For those of you who are a little older, you might remember there was a publication in Kentucky called Wheels and Deals. Also, they actually, if you. A sidebar here, they were proprietary. Like, you had to have kind of like the permission to do it in a certain area. So if Wheels and Deals was in your area, you didn't get Auto Trader.
Right.
It's kind of an interesting deal.
It is. That is a very interesting
I remember used to walk down to the corner every week and buy a Wheels and Deals and look through it passionately.
You had to. It was like, you really had to.
Yeah, anyway, so we're marketplace junkies, and this thing came up that was like, you have to buy me. And of course, also, before we get going, Ruckus Truk, the reason this build, and a lot of people don't even know about it because we did it during the pandemic, and it kind of was a little bit lost in the shuffle, but it's really one of my favorites that we've done.
It's really cool. It's a lot of fun to drive, and it's just a very raw and visceral feel. I mean, you feel almost like you're in a B-17 bomber.
Yeah, it definitely has this raw World War II aircraft feel to it.
Yeah.
So back to what we found. So I think I found this, and I brought it to Lee. I was like, Lee, you're not going to believe what I just found.
Yeah, that's awesome.
These guys up in the northeast area, in the middle of nowhere from Birmingham, had this Craftsman Series NASCAR truck that somebody had they had almost completed making it into a road course vehicle.
Yeah, they had de-circlified it, because those NASCAR chassis, they all just want to turn left.
The actual chassis generally is somewhat a little bit offset.
Yeah, it's set so that you will turn left very easily. But they had re-squared it up. They'd put a LS1 powertrain in it with a
T56.
T56.
I mean, it's the gold standard really of awesome drivetrains.
But it wasn't completely sorted. They had some issues.
Yeah, so
things that they couldn't figure out.
Right. Okay. So here's the thing: if you had to get it to the point where it was when we bought it, I think you would have easily had 15 plus, maybe almost close to 20 grand in it.
Yeah.
With an LS1, with the T56, with the 9-inch Grand National rear end.
Yeah.
So actually, this story starts out. It starts out about the purchase of a 1980 Z28.
Yes, Z28.
So we digress.
Yeah. We came across this really sweet-looking, wonderful, beautiful example of a Z28.
It was gorgeous. I mean, it was an original orange T-top Z28, and it had one respray years ago. It must have been a very old restoration, and they had put the stripes back on it and everything, and this thing was
obviously had been garage kept. The interior
beautiful.
was very, very nice, very clean. Somebody had gone and put a cam in it.
Okay, yeah, so that's it. We just told you all the good stuff. And when we went to buy this car, we're like, oh yeah, this car is awesome, we're buying it. We snapped it up, and it was rust free also.
Yeah.
And nowadays, honestly, even in the condition, even with the bad things we're about to tell you, that car would probably be worth 15 grand.
Yeah, it's amazing what just a few years makes.
Yeah, but we got it for less than half that. But anyway, so I'll pop the hood on it, and it's got it hits a lick. I mean, like you wouldn't believe.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and
chest hairs go.
Flowmaster exhaust, and then the windows worked, and it had headers on it that were jet hot coated, and it was just really pretty under the hood too. Well, we bought it, and then we started to realize that, first of all, someone had completely removed all of the HVAC out of it. Like, there wasn't a heater box, there wasn't a fan motor, all the controls were hooked up to nothing.
Not a single luxury.
Okay, so there was that. And then the fact that even as good as it sounds, it couldn't pull a grease string out of the goat's rear end. I mean, it was just anemic.
Very anemic.
And it had this 410 rear end, and so it was like rah everywhere, and it was just horrible gas mileage. Required premium fuel, and even then it would diesel terribly.
Yeah.
And we had a set of 17-inch year one aluminums on it, and it was just it was
really cool. We made
some
inserts to go inside the year ones. It really popped.
So anyway, this story starts out about a Camaro.
Yes.
Anyway, we didn't end up driving it very much because it was such a PI double guh.
Yeah.
And really, cars that don't drive well, we get rid of them.
Yeah. They got to go.
So
you got to go.
Anyway, so we were like, guys, we called the guys up, and they've been sitting on this thing for a while. They were asking $12 grand for it at one point. And it never sell. And we said, we got this Camaro. We might be willing to do some sort of a trade of cash plus or whatever. And so they came down to look at it. And they're like, yeah, we'd be interested. So we put the car in a trailer, drove it up there. And there's the car, there's the truck.
Yeah, and it's everything that they say it is.
You literally turn on the button and push the start. And it's
and the LS1 sounds great.
They already got the NASCAR style exhaust all hooked up.
Sounds great.
It's got a buddy seat in it already, so evidently it was a ride and drive vehicle at some point. It's been converted.
Must have been.
But it was a super speedway truck because it had all the stuff for super speedway.
Yeah, it's got the flaps on it. Had the fire suppression system already in it.
It already had like places to put like polycarbonate side windows and all that. So yeah. Anyway, this thing's like, oh yeah, this is so cool. So we start trying to back it out of the shed that they had it in, and it won't move.
Yeah,
we've got a video of this. I think one tire spins, the other was like, what is going on here? And then when we finally I don't even know what we did about that. We found one of the floater axles that was sitting in the truck.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, and if you know anything about lockers, it's a really odd thing. They don't work at all if one of the axles is out. Like you'd think, oh, it's a locker, like a spool, it would just pull one side. No, it doesn't actually. It almost, like it'll pull just a hair, and then you put any kind of torque on it, and it doesn't pull at all. Okay. And so we did something about that.
Yeah, we put that axle in, right?
We put the axle back in?
I think so.
Oh, well, whatever we did, we got it so it would move under its own power. But then we get it up the road, and it's making the worst grinding sound you ever heard. And so we get it back to we don't even take it 100 feet. We back it up, and we realize that these wheels they put on are the NASCAR wheels.
Oh.
And
forgot about that. It was so bad, man. They were not sized correctly. It was like carving the caliper.
Offset. Yeah, the offset of the wheel was literally like grating aluminum off the caliper.
It was well, the wheel and the caliper, they were both just suffering terrible damage. We're like, oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. So anyway, the caliper, it was fine, but
it was not good.
It did carve into it. It was not good.
Yeah.
So we take the wheels off, and we finally get it to move, but then that's when we discovered the axle.
The axle.
The first thing was the grind. Anyway,
right.
So the thing is a basket case, but there's a lot to love here. We were like, guys, we can't do a straight up trade. This car is worth probably close to back then. I think close to 10 grand, even with the issues, and they knew what the issues were. So we're like, you give us some cash to do it, and anyway, we ended up making a deal. So we get this thing home, and of course,
wait.
Oh, I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, so we're loading up on the trailer. I jump in the hot seat on that one, and we've got this ridiculous trailer. We'd picked this trailer up, and it is just not suited for getting cars.
It's too high off the ground. It was not a great car trailer.
Too high off the ground. The fenders are ridiculous
Big,
on it, and there's like serious diamond plate. You know. Anyway, we're trying to get up there, and it's amazing. You cannot see when you're in that seat. The front end of that, and I was trying to get up there.
We had spotters, but
yeah, but. Not enough Chiefs, too many Chiefs. I don't know. Something happened, and I got up against the exhaust. Of course, the exhaust is coming out the side.
Only one side, yeah.
Yeah, and I got kind of hung up on that, so we had to back up. Try it again, but then, we got it home.
Yeah, so, on the way, we found this really sweet deal on Gremlin, which I still want to go pick up.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, okay, so, right, we were driving along, and the guy had a Gremlin out on the...
Yeah, one for sale.
One for sale on the outside of the road.
It was kind of cheesified, but then he had one.
Then he had one. He's sitting on like an oil tank or something, right?
Yeah, something crazy.
This
I guarantee you it's still sitting there, and we can still get it for $500. We've got to go get that.
Hey, shut up.
I'm sorry. I don't know where it is.
So anyway, it was a really cool Gremlin, and then...
So we get this thing home, and we start looking at it.
Unloading went a lot easier.
Yeah. And we're really, like at this point, we got it just because...
LS1, T56,
NASCAR
chassis. I mean,
Great National. Anyway, we really still weren't sure what we were going to do with it. So we're like, what do we do with this thing? What do we do with this thing? Well, we start taking it apart, and we realized that the rear end is a basket case. They didn't have the right axle in, we ended up having a 456 chunk limited slip from the original Bronco that went to Austria.
Yeah.
And we ended up, because we took that one out and put a 355 in because it was such a terrible bear to drive with a 456. Anyway, so we had that. We ended up putting that rear end in it. And anyway, at this point, we're looking to see what we want to do. And if you are a student of NASCAR, you know a lot of times they use a few original panels on the vehicles.
Yes. Yeah, and I was trying to look up to see how much, but I couldn't find the actual specs on that. But I know it's like the cab part has to be the original.
It has to be in spec. Okay, so look, you guys might send this and say, "Oh no, that's not right." That's not right. Well, this is what I understand. That first of all, that the cab dimensions have got to be the same spec as factory, as far as the outer dimension. And my understanding was they used the roof and welded the door A-pillar metal to the roof, so it's a roof skin with A-pillar metal. And then the door skins were not door skins, but they were the same size and shape as the door skins would be on the original truck. So we did all this measuring. We found out that it was very, very close to being, we couldn't completely confirm that it was exactly the same spec, but we knew it was very close by our measurements. So we're like, you know what? Let's go get an OBS, and we'll put the OBS body on this NASCAR chassis and finish the job that should have been done all along.
Yep, and so he started cutting the stuff off of it.
Well, yeah, and they'd put a 98 up front nose on it.
Right.
That was like I can't remember that company, All Star or whatever. Yeah. They sell these parts for exhibition trucks, not NASCAR, but anyway, and it had that on it.
Yeah, and so we went and found an OBS donor. What year was that?
Yeah, so that was a 91.
91.
And it had a bad transmission, and we got that thing for $500, and it was
pretty gross looking. I mean, it's got some cultures
literally,
going on
it was growing stuff.
Yeah, it had all that moss on it and everything.
Yeah, but it was perfect for what we needed. Yeah, so we cut the body off of that, and we took the doghouse off of it and started seeing how it's going to match up. The other thing, back to wheels and tires, and maybe we should save that for next time.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So I guess what we should talk about just briefly is the concept, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about our idea, the reason why this thing exists.
Yeah. So again, we always like to do a great backstory, but it also gives us focus when we're making decisions. But it's also fun. With vehicles, it's storytelling, right? We love to tell it. Who doesn't love a great story, right? So, I don't know if you're like us. We're in love with, first of all, race car liveries in general, but then the Marlboro livery is just one of those that just really gets me right here.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And then they had on everything from Formula One to trophy trucks to, I mean, it was on everything, to SCCA. Anyway. So we're like, let's do some kind of Marlboro livery and make this truck like a DTM style, with the Bach flares and all that. And anyway, so that was what we were kind of going for. We did some renderings. You can see some of these renderings as we went. And then as we got a little further with it, the build speaks to you, but we started looking at it like, you know what, this kind of reminds me of a stunt truck, like those stunt shows that you used to see in Orlando back in the day. And so we thought, let's do a stunt truck. Livery out of it. Plus we can throw some Americana in there, right?
Yeah, kind of like Evel Knievel meets this sort of deal.
Yeah, so we adjusted the livery to make it kind of like Evel Knievel meets Marlboro, and give it kind of a red, white, and blue. And then we were like, okay, what kind of stunt would this thing be made for? And then we thought, well, if we did it for like a world speed record, wouldn't that be kind of cool? A land speed record truck. Yeah. And so we did up the backstory like it's the world's fastest truck, and in 1988, before the ZR1 did it, that you might know about, and I can't remember the company that sponsored that, but it used to be in 91 or 90, the ZR1 Corvette it set the world's longest endurance high-speed record. Yeah. And what our story was is that we did it first. It wasn't as fast, but it's a truck, so it's still the world's fastest truck. Yeah. And so that was what we did, and we kind of went forward with that as our theme.
That was the idea behind everything on it. So.
But then we were able to really just have fun with all the aerodynamic stuff. We love to do the details, the rear roll pan, and with that's the other thing. Let's talk about the stance.
Okay. All right. but just don't get too far ahead.
Okay, right. Well, the stance, you know, is one of those things that's it's vitally important on any build. And one cool thing about a NASCAR chassis is it automatically dials in some really cool radical stance.
Yeah, it's low, and that's why I was having trouble getting in the trailers, because you really couldn't see as low as I was.
Yeah.
I couldn't see any of the trailer once I got to it.
But with the way this thing was on the chassis, the stance, we were able to take the original bumper and bolt it in place. And you know, if you remember the OBS, it has this chin spoiler, and the chin spoiler was so low that we just put a splitter on the bottom of that, and everything was stock. And it's kind of this juxtaposition of the crazy box flares and the vents and the active or the aerodynamic. Okay, sorry.
You're getting way too far.
Sorry.
We're not going to have enough to do another video.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so hey, if you want to see all the stuff that he's talking about, check us out for the next one. We'll try to make it hit next week. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Hit that subscribe button and give us a like. Tell us all about it, all right?
Have a good one. Bye.